Hi, welcome back to the pod. Today we're going to continue our series of videos breaking down draft candidates. And today we're going to talk about our boo, your boo, everybody's boo, Matas Buzelis out of the G League Ignite. Tankathon has him going number 8, but he's a 6'11 small forward. He's got the size. He meets the over 6'7 criteria that is most important to all of us. He is averaging 13.9 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 1.9 blocks. It's nice. It's nice. And the only time I've really seen him play was during the Rising Stars game, and they upset Wimby's team, and he looked pretty good. He was definitely looked lanky and long out there. So I think he would be a nice fit on Portland. What do you think, Colton?
Couple things I like about Buzelis. So in high school, he was really, really good. I know a lot of these prospects are really good in high school, but what stands out to me is he shot 43% from three-point range. That hasn't translated as well into G League Ignite, but as we've seen with G League Ignite getting shut down, I don't think the NBA is really excited about how G League Ignite has been developing players. So I know that that's going to be kind of a thing. Says, oh, G League Ignite. Well, when you're a 6'10 wing, I'm willing to take a gamble on that potential. And another thing that I like about him is this season on the G League Ignite, they haven't won very many games, but Mr. Buzelis has actually hit not one, two game winners. I mean, so when they win, which isn't hasn't been often this season, Buzelis has been the one hitting game winners. A guy that can go and get you a bucket at the end of the game at that size. I like that. I mean, yes, that's just two shots out of a whole season. But my point being, he's young, he's big, he's skilled, he's shown he can shoot. And while I know that's high school, my point is, I like it. I like the potential. I like the package there. I like him a lot more than somebody like a Cody Williams. Uh, C Dub. I'm sorry, but I think that his potential is high, and that's what I'm looking for at this stage. A guy that's 6'7" plus with good potential. I think Buzelis fits the bill.
I do think that he has a lot of potential, but there's a couple of things that worry me too. I do worry a little bit that his frame, just the way that he's built, he doesn't really look like he can go in as well against the big bodies. And I think so far we've seen that a little bit in his G League performance too. The G League for sure is not as big as the NBA, which might be part of the reason why, the development isn't really happening the way that they thought it might. Uh, but even in the G League, he just doesn't have the ability to like go into traffic, control the ball, and like control what he's gonna do. Just watching highlights is really what I've seen, but it just seems like he gets trapped pretty easily, and gets into positions where maybe he picks up the ball too quickly. A lot of this stuff can be learned and worked on, but just as far as his physicality, it doesn't really seem to be something that he's really improved so far in his time in the G League. And if we're going to get this guy who's going to be, 6'7" plus, that's great. But I've got to be able to take some bumps too, because we're going to need rebounding help badly, with our guards, out on the perimeter and everything. We're going to need rebounders. We're going to need slashers. And if he can't go in amongst the trees, we might have problems. So he's got to work on that. But yeah, the shooting is good. The general ball handling, especially outside of traffic, seems to be pretty decent. I just want to see him get a little bit more physical and able to take some contact when he goes in to grab those rebounds that we're going to desperately need.
He kind of reminds me a little bit of Utah's Lauri Markkanen, the shooting and shot blocking and finesse all kind of rolled into one. It's not just because they're both white, I promise. But Markkanen seems to be pretty effective. I think he would be a great fit on the Blazers I have for a while now. Just some size and some shooting and some shot blocking. I thought he would have been a pretty good partner with Dame a few years back. So if we could get someone like that, that wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing in the world. I do agree though that it would be nice to also have someone who could get down low and be a little bit more physical, maybe go get some rebounds at that size.
I'm not too worried about a player's body being fully developed at 19, especially at that size when you grow that fast. I think it's funny that some of the arguments about can a skinny guy hold up in the NBA? Well, we've seen one skinny guy, a couple skinny guys that are young come into the league and really play extremely well at that slender size, even more skinny, namely Chet Holmgren. I know Chet Holmgren's kind of a probably even on another level of a prospect, but similar body type. I think that, you know, if you look at his numbers in the G League Ignite, 6.5 rebounds per game in what 30 minutes as that young guy in a league full of older players. I'm not hating on 6.5 rebounds per game. I think that, it's not like he's averaging 3 rebounds a game at that size. He's getting in there and getting boards. Would I like to see it at like 8 rebounds a game, 9 rebounds a game? Yes, but I don't think that that's a major red flag. I think that in this draft, there's so many, no player is like standing out with, wow, I need, every single thing checks the list with this guy. And I think that Buzelis provides enough intrigue, enough upside, enough size, enough ball handling, enough everything to be a guy that I want at the top of my list. Not the top, but close. I think that he is going to be a good enough dart to throw at the board, you know, in this draft that you can get.
You
He
do?
kind of reminds me, you said marketing. He reminds me of Mr. Orlando Magic Wagner.
Yeah.
Mo
Another
Wagner.
white guy.
Well, okay, but that's what his game reminds me of. And Portland could use a guy like that badly. That their game might not be a clone of each other, but that's kind of the skill set he could bring if he brings that full development into the fold.
Someone who can get a shot up over the defense would be nice.
Yes.
And then just provides that length on the defensive end. You
Yep.
do make a good point about the sort of success of the tall, skinny guys lately. And it kind of got me thinking that really just the way the NBA is played nowadays, there's not as much banging, there's not as much getting down low on the block and being real physical down low. In fact, the big guys have kind of got phased out of the league. There's not a lot of like mammoth guys anymore. There's a few here or there, but that are ultra skilled, like Embiid and Jokic and those guys. But it really does seem to be favoring the Wimby is the extreme of this, obviously, but a guy who can really get up and down the floor fast, super skilled, ball handler, shooter, as tall as possible, as tall as you can possibly make him. So yeah, that might kind of favor Buzelis, whether he ends up on the Blazers or not. He probably is in the perfect time to be in the NBA for him.
It still is the guys like Yusuf Nurkic and Draymond Green, though, that can go in there and get like 30 rebounds in a game. Nurkic has the 30 rebound game this season, and it's not the littler guys who are going in and banging like that. There still is a place for physicality. Obviously, not every player has to have it. And I'm not necessarily saying that he's not, worth taking because he's not a expert rebounder yet, but we got to get somebody who can get in there. But it's interesting that you mentioned, the fact that he's getting 6 rebounds or so in the G League and wondering how that might translate to the NBA where guys are bigger, but guys are faster, guys are more aggressive. And the fact pairing that with the fact that the G League is apparently on its way out, it really hasn't worked. It's been kind of a failed experiment. So it's interesting to think about what's going to happen here. Are guys going to go back? Is it just going to be college ball again now that the NIL is kind of developed? Or is there going to be some new pathway that comes up to try to, continue not having to do the one and done?
I'm gonna be Adam Silver's personal spokesman for a second. I don't necessarily think it was a failed experiment. It wasn't like ultra successful. I mean, that remains to be seen, I guess. In a few years we'll see how some of those prospects pan out. Let's go Scoot. But I think that they created the Ignite to service a market that just doesn't exist anymore with NIL stuff. You know, the guys can go get paid in college now, which is why they made it. So I think it's sort of is a little redundant, and that's why they're getting rid of it. At least that's what the suits on the NBA are saying, that why it's not failed. It's just we actually succeeded in pressuring the NCAA into giving these kids their money.
To tie in your point about the G League as a whole, but also your point about Nurkic itch players, right? Uh, so Buzelis, that's the other thing about him. He's a wing. He's not going to be tasked with guarding Yusuf Nurkic, and I mean, he might just because of a switch but he's not going to be the center. He's not going to be a center of the future. He's skilled enough and mobile enough to play on the wing or at least the four. So you got a guy like Aiton in there who is getting a lot of rebounds lately, but he's not going to be tasked with guarding the big, huge guys of the league unless everybody else fouls out or whatever. So there's that. But also tying that into the G League, what about that type of archetype of player in the G League, right? Like, is there a lot of those guys in the G League that you can even look at a sample size with? I don't know. Do you watch the G League? Anyways, I think it's
I don't
interesting.
watch college, to be fair, either way. But
I think it's interesting with the G League too, because what can you say, right? Like I do think Jalen Green, like I said, in a previous video that we did or a previous discussion we had, he is turning it on, and I think that it's almost like they're getting, and Scoot we're seeing is kind of getting development on the team in the NBA that they could have had in the G League Ignite. So if you equate that to Buzelis, you can't say all of them are going to succeed, but I'm not going to just say it's not possible for him to be a good player just through G League Ignite. I know that it's a little odd. It's a little bit of an odd situation, kind of like the Thompson twins last year with OTE, Overtime Elite. That was kind of a weird, how do you assess this player league? And it's still interesting. And I thought both the Thompson twins have shown flashes this year. So I can't hold the whole G League as an argument away from drafting a player, but it is kind of an odd
is
situation.
the overtime elite exist anymore? What is that?
Yeah.
They still exist?
Yeah, it's kind of a low, not very competitive league where it's kind of like run it up ball, kind of like
But
we'll
it's
run
not the
it up.
G League. It's different from the NBA.
It's yeah, it's not affiliated.
Okay.
But it's kind of its own thing. Like I don't really know how to explain it, I guess, better than that. I was just looking into it last year. I didn't even know it existed before the Thompson twins. And it's obvious their athletic profiles fit in the game, just like I think Buzelis will fit in the NBA.
And hopefully Scoot will too. We're just
He
going
will.
all in on the G League Ignite as soon as they're folding. That's our prayer here going forward. All right, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below. Is Buzelis our guy? Is Boo our boo? And you should too. Something. I don't know.
Boo!
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.